Hello everyone. This is the second lecture on function in C. In this lecture, we are going to discuss about the function definition. So what is a function? It defines the tasks of the function. It also defines how the tasks will be performed. In function definition, there are mainly two parts, the function header and the function body. In case of library function, we know that the library functions are declared in the standard header files. Now, they are defined, means they are actual tasks and how it will be done, that is defined in the library files. Extension will be .liv and they reside in the library folder. User-defined functions are defined by the programmer. So, programmer decide what the function will do and how that task will be done. In this case, the add function is declared here and it is defined over here. Defined means the function should, what the function will do and how it will be done, that is defined over here. Now this part where it is looks similar to the function prototype is called the function header. So this is the add function header. After that there will be a curly brace, and within that curly brace we are going to write the statement which will be used to implement the function. The function should end with a closing curly brace. So this part is called, from opening curly brace to the closing curly brace, this part is called the function body. So this is the main function header and this is the main function body. We know that main function is user-defined function because the tasks and how it solves the task, that will be defined by the programmer is. So let us discuss about the function header. Function header must match with the function declaration. The name must match, and remember C is a case-sensitive language, so the cases should match. The return type should match with the function declaration, and the number of input arguments along with their data types and ordering must match with the function declaration. If that doesn't match, then it will give you a compilation error. In function header must specify the input argument data type and the variable name. So you can see that the add function, as we are mentioning the function input argument data type, which in this case both are int, and the variable name m and n. Now these are called, this m and n, or the variable mentioned in the function header, are called the formal argument. So in this example, m and n are the formal argument. Now if you remember, in function declaration it is not necessary to mention the name of the variable, but in case of function header you must mention the name of the variable. Another thing you can notice that function definition, the function header does not have any semicolon, which is there in the function declaration. Next we are going to discuss about the function body. A function body should start with a curly brace and end with a closing brace. All the executable statement means the statement required to implement the tasks of the function will be written within the curly brace. So the opening curly brace to the closing curly brace is called the function body. Here, within the function body, here we specify what the function will do and how it performs its tasks. If the function going to return a value to the calling function, the function must use a return statement. The return statement will help the function to return a value to the calling function. You can return a value of the data type which is specified in the return type in the function declaration and the function header. If the function is not returning any value to the calling function, that function will not have any return statement. So let us take two examples where we are going to discuss the return statement and the function not returning any value. So the first example, it tells the statement goes like, declare and define a function which will take an integer as input and display the square of the number. Once again, read the question problem statement very carefully. Declare, you have to declare as well as define a function which will take an integer value. So the input argument, its data type will be integer, and there will be only one integer. And display the square of the number. As the function itself displaying the result, it should not return any value to the calling function. So from this problem statement, we can say that as the function is not returning any value, so its return type will be void. In this case, we are using the square underscore show, that name for the function. So this is my function name, square underscore show. And as it is taking a single integer value, that is mentioned over here within the parentheses. So this is the function declaration. As you know that function declaration should end with a semicolon, so there is a semicolon. Now what about the definition? The definition, first of all, the definition, the function, in the definition, the function header should match with the function declaration. So the return type will be void, as we know that return type should match. The name should match, and the name is case sensitive, so it is matching. Then the input argument should match, so it is integer, and here we need to specify the formal argument, which is, after that we can start our function body using the opening curly brace. Within that we are declaring another variable y, which is of integer type, because we are taking an integer value from the user and the square will be an integer, so the y will be can be the integer. So y is equals to x into x. Here actually we are performing the square of the number. Then finally we are printing the value. We are printing square of x equals to y. Next example. Here we are declaring and defining a function which will take two integers as input and return the result of division of these two numbers. Now, from the problem statement, it is clear that it will take two input arguments of integer type, which is mentioned. Now, as the function will perform division, so division result will be a floating type of value, so the return type will be float. Now, name can be anything. I have used the name divide over here. You can use any valid name. The function declaration goes like, the return type is float, the name is divide, and within the parenthesis we are specifying the input argument types, and function declaration end with the semicolon. Now for the definition, the declaration, the function header should match with the declaration, and we need to specify the formal arguments. So we have done that. Float is the return type, divide is the function name, integer is the input argument, first input argument data type, followed by the formal argument s. Then the second input argument data type is int, followed by the formal argument t. So the value we are passing to that function will be stored in s and t. We can omit that one also because we haven't used that y in the program. What we are going to do, as we know that division by 0 is not possible, then we are giving a condition checking. In the condition checking, what we are doing, we are checking that if t not equals to 0, then we can simply divide s by t. So we are going to do that. Now else means if t is 0, that time it will go into the else part. So division is not possible at that time, and we are going to return the value 0.0 to the calling function. So let us take what if the t value is not equal to 0. As we know that the integer by an integer is an integer, then what we are doing, we are typecasting the s into a float, then dividing it by t so that we get the actual result. Now, so this will give me float by an integer, which will be a float value, and it will return the value to the calling function. Now, first let us discuss the return statement, and then we are going to elaborate these examples with some assumptions. The return statement returns the value mentioned in the parameter to the calling function. Whatever function is calling your user-defined function, it will return the parameter mentioned in the return statement to the calling function. It will take the execution back, means it will context switch from calling function to the called function. Return statement, remember this is a very important point. Return statement can return only one value, and it is on in C programming language. In other programming language like Python, it may return a number of values, but in case of C programming language, it can return only one value. The value the function is returning should match its data type with the return type of the function. The last one is the function can have multiple return statements but can execute only one at a once. So only one return statement will be executed at once. So here you can see that we have specified two return statements, but it can return only, or it can execute only one return statement at once. It is not possible to execute all the return statement, whatever the code it is, by the called function. The reason is that when you are executing the return statement, the execution will go back to the calling function. So, as we have already mentioned, we are going to elaborate those two examples with some assumptions. The first example, let us take the main function is calling the square show function. So the main function is calling the square show function, which I have mentioned with SS with the value 5. So what will happen here? In the square show function, there will be a space for the variable x, and it will store the value 5. Then there will be a different memory space for y, as it is declared in the square show function, and initial value will be garbage. Then we are performing y equals to x into x, so it will store 5 into 5, that is 25. One thing you need to remember right now, this x and y, these two variables will be available to the square show function only. It will not be available to the main function. The reason will be clear to you later. Next, what it will do, it will print the statement square of x, that is 5, is equals to y, that is 25. So that will be my printf statement. Now, as the function is not returning anything, so there is no return statement, and the function, then how the function will go back to the calling function? By when there is no return statement, it will come to the ending curly brace of the function body. From this point, the compiler will understand that there is nothing to do in this function anymore, so it will go back to the calling function. So from this point, it will go back to the main function and do whatever statement is there in the main function after the calling of the function. This thing will be much more clear to you when we are going to discuss the function call. Now let us take the example 2. In the example 2, once again we are considering that main function is calling the divide function, which we are mentioning by d, with the parameter 10 and 3. So s value is 10 and t value is 3. Once again remember, this This y variable is not required over here. So in the divide function, there will be two variables, s and t, and s value will be 10 and t value will be 3. Here you can see that the parameter are passed following the ordering of the parameter will be stored following the ordering of the formal argument. Now what we are doing, we are checking that t is equals to 0 or not. As t is not equals to 0 because t value is 3, then what it will do, it will typecast the s, that is 10, into a floating value and divide that 1 by t. So this operation now will give me 3.33333, and after that, after the operation is over, or we will get the actual value to be written, it will return the value to the main function. So from here, from this statement, it will go back to the main function and return this value to the main function. Now, what if the main function call the divide function by the parameter 3 and 0? In that case, the s formal argument will hold the value 3 and the t formal argument that will hold the value 0. Now, as t not equals to 0, this condition is false right now. What will happen is that it will go to the else part. Now, in the else part, what we are doing, we are returning the 0.0 value to the calling function, where the calling function is the main function. So, it will return from here the called function, that is the divide function, will return 0.0 value to the main function. So, for the first case, the main will get 3.3333, another 3 will be there, 6 3s will be there, and in that case, in the second case, the main function will have 0.00000. So that is how the return statement will work, and that is how, if the function does not have any return statement, we will work and go back to the calling function. Next, we are going to discuss where can we define a function. What is the proper place to define a function? A function must be defined outside any of the function. As we have discussed earlier, the declaration can be within a function or outside of the function. We prefer to declare outside of the function, but the function definition should be outside of any function. So we cannot define a function within another function. If the function is already declared, here you concentrate on the term if. If the declaration has already been done for that function, we can define the function after calling. If the declaration is not there, also consider this one. These two things will be very important. If it is not declared, means the function is not declared, then the definition must be done before calling. So this is all about function definition. Now let us take an example where we are going to define all this. We are going to see how the function definition is working in the practical example. So in this example, you can see that we have defined the squares of function, but we haven't declared the squares of function. Now, the next statement is the declaration of the divide function. As we have mentioned earlier, we have mentioned in our PPT that a function can be, if it is not declared, then it can be, then the definition must be before the calling. And if the function is declared, then the function definition can be after the calling. So here we are not declaring that function, but we are defining it. The reason is that when the compiler is performing the calling of a function, the compiler at that position must know the presence of that function. So the presence can be made aware to the compiler either by defining it or by calling it or by declaring it. So before we are calling the square show function, we have defined it so the compiler is aware of the presence of the square show function. But in the second case, the divide function is defined after its calling, but we make the presence of the divide function aware to the make aware the compiler of the presence of the divide function by declaring it. In the square show function, what we are doing, we are putting the value in the formal argument x and performing x into x and stored into the integer value y, and finally we are printing the square of x is equals to y, the values. Now in case of divide function, what we are doing, we are checking the value of t is equals to 0 or not. If it is not equals to 0, then we are typecasting s into a floating type of value and dividing it by t and returning that value to the calling function. Here the calling function is main function, and you can see that the return value will be stored in another variable of floating type of variable c, and finally we are putting a by b is equals to c. Now, if t value is 0, then the else statement, return statement will be executed and it will return 0, 0 value and stored in the C, and it will show that a by b is equals to 0, 0. So, let us run that code and see what is the output we are going to get. So, it is asking for the value of a and b. Let us take, we are putting 10 for a and 3 for b. Now, if I press enter, the next statement which will be executed is the scanf statement, and it will the value 10 and 3 will be stored in a and b. Then the square show function will be called with a, and y will be 10 into 10, that is 100, and the output will show you square of 10 is equals to 100. Then the context will be switched from the square show function to the main function, and it will come to this statement. Here what it will do, it will call the divide function with the parameter a and b, that is 10 and 3, and stored in s and t. Now as t is not equals to 0 because t value will be 3, so it will execute this return statement and it will return the 10 by 3, 10.0 by 3, that is 3.33333, that is 6 will be there to the and the return value will be stored in C. So the main function now show 10 by 3 is equal to 3.333. So let me run that code and see the output is correct or not what I am saying. So you can see that it is generating the output with what we are expecting. Now if we once again run the code with another two parameters, here we are going to give 3 in A and 0 in B. So square function will simply show square of 3 is equals to 9, but the divide function here, the t value is 0, so the else part will be executed. In there we are returning 0, 0 value to C, so it will show A by B, that is 3 by 0 is equals to 0.0000. So you can see that we are getting our desired output. So from this, I think the idea of function definition as well as the idea of function declaration is clear to you. In the next video, we are going to discuss about the function calling. Then we are going to discuss the situation when a function is calling itself. Till then, stay safe and see you in the next video. Thank you.